Oh my gosh, I thought I would just stop and then start right back real quick. Stella's over there stealing from the neighbor's recycle. She really thinks she gets these great things, getting their little milk things. Anyway, so they couldn't get it in because of the scoliosis, I guess. And it was really weird because they were saying, you know, asking me if I could feel it, you know, what I was feeling and stuff. And I knew something wasn't right because it was only going down one leg. All of a sudden, you're just being paralyzed in one leg. And I was like, I said, something's not right. And so then they did it again and started asking me. I was like, no, this isn't, something's not right. And after they did that, then I was still curled up in the ball and they just put me to sleep right there like that. And then they must have had to lay me back and, but yeah, I've had surgery before. I've never been put to sleep like that. And so when I woke up in recovery, I was so confused waking up. I remember that. And there was none of that, you know, laying you down and having you count backwards and all that stuff. I mean, it was just, I'm bent over and then I'm waking up in recovery. So it was it was really weird. And then it must have been when they were waking me up, like making me wake up, and I got really nauseous. It seems like, and I started puking, and then right away they were moving me to the floor. And then when they moved me to the floor, the nurse came in and started talking to me. And I started telling her, something's wrong with my shoulder. I said, do they do something weird in surgery to your, you know, like, do they strap your arm down or something? Something's wrong with my shoulder. And she's just like, oh, I don't know. I'll have to go check. This isn't my floor. And then, you know, she didn't come back for hours and hours and hours. And by the time that she did come back, the pain was so much worse. And I was like, I really need something. I need an x-ray or something. Something's really wrong with my shoulder or my neck. It's up in my neck now and stuff. And it was the same thing. Oh, well, I'll just tell the floor nurse or whatever. Can't remember what they're called now. The nurse that's over, because each nursing station has well, it's not just because a big floor could have more than one nursing station, but there'll be, you know, a nurse who's over all the nurses, who's just running things. Anyways, she said she was going to go talk to her. Can't remember what they're called. And so when she did, then I don't know. Now, you know, I get confused because I've read all of their those things that, what are those things called? This is the worst too, the word problem. It's something that just really was hard too when it first happened. I was at a conference and it was all these nurses and doctors and stuff, and this doctor, I think, was talking and he was saying all of these words, and I had to go in the bathroom. I was just bawling because I was like, I used to know what these words meant. I have no idea what he's talking about. And that's before they finally had told me what was wrong, but it took a while to get diagnosed. So when I woke up, you know, and I was telling her, I don't remember anybody coming in. In the court thing, it said that there was a guy that came in, but he said every nurse that came in said I was just doing great. The anesthesiologist was coming every day to check on me, and I told him how great I was doing. I told everybody how great I was doing. If you read just the records and you go just to the case, that's you know what they said. But they doctored the records and stuff. In reality, that wasn't what went on in the room, and there was a lot of witnesses. But once the witnesses are your family members, like, who else are you gonna have in the hospital room? Strangers? I guess we should have. As soon as they saw there was a problem, they should have outsmarted the whole system and went down and got some stranger to come and sit in the room with me day after day to be a witness in court. Like, who would have ever even thought it would ever get to that? But anyways, yeah, they don't believe your family when you go to court. Everybody is a liar except for the liars. The liars are the only honest ones in the courtroom. So I don't remember anybody coming in there. It seemed like she came in 2 or 3 times in the night, and every time I told her it was worse. Then, you know, I got a new nurse, and I was telling that person, but man, it's really hard to remember some of the stuff now. But I was getting worse and worse and worse. I reached a point I wasn't able to talk. I could just moan. I was in such agonizing pain. Oh my God, it was horrible. I had natural childbirth, and I thought that was the worst pain I had ever experienced. It was nothing like this. And this was definitely the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. I really, you know, it felt like my head was coming off, and it was slow. This went on for days. It wasn't like anybody would fix it or anything. And I kept asking for them to get me the doctor. For days and days, I kept saying, I need the doctor, I need the doctor, something's wrong, something's wrong. And nobody was listening. They would come in and they'd say, oh, the doctor said that you probably have a migraine. You just need some caffeine. I'll make you a cup of tea and stuff like that. That was the 3rd day the doctor came in. So this is the first time I've seen any doctor, was the 3rd day. And as soon as he saw me, then he knew something was wrong. And he seemed stressed and ordered tests. And I don't remember if that's when they started putting me in a room by myself. I don't know, it's really gotten blurry now to try and remember all of it. But I know certain things, and so that's when they started doing the tests. They couldn't do the test till the evening, then they couldn't read the test till the next day, then they had to get a specialist to come in and talk to me about the test. So that was day 4 in the afternoon. He ordered more tests, which was day 5, and after he did his test, and then they saw that I had no fluid and my brain was collapsing and all that. I'm sure I was already in the private room, and they made me go back on the pain meds and stuff, because I had those taken out the first hour that I woke up. I was like, I don't like that stuff. It makes me super itchy, and it makes they make you push that thing, and then you get this for a couple minutes. You feel just like you're not even in the room, and then it wears off, and then you can't have any pain medicine. I just don't like it. I'd rather have a pill. So I went on the pills because it lasted more hours, and but nothing was working, and so day 5 is when they decided to do the blood patch. So I got the blood patch, and it was more in the evening. And then you have to wait for the blood patch to even work. You have to lay there for a long time, but then you have to lay on your back for a long time, which that's what all they had to do in the very beginning when they didn't pass on report. Stop. Nobody ever told that I had any spinal stuff. It was never passed on in any report at any time. Nobody ever was told that. And if they would, and I worked on the neuro floor, and it was very important when somebody has a thing back there with their spinal fluid that they are kept flat for a certain amount of time. But I can't remember now how long, so I would not say it right. But they didn't keep me flat. And as a matter of fact, I was in so much pain, I couldn't even laid back. I had to sit up. I was like curled up in fetus position holding my head because it literally felt like I was going to explode. It was horrible pain. And it took a while after they did the blood patch. Then they were giving me some kind of IV stuff. And I said, don't give me anything with caffeine, because they wanted to give me a bunch of caffeine. I said, don't give me any caffeine. It will start giving me, I don't like that palpitation feeling where your heart starts doing that. I can't stand that. And I told her not to give me any. And then I saw that she did. Well, I knew that she did when my heart rate went up and it was in the high 90s. And so she stopped that. And I don't remember when the headache stopped. Sometime during that night, I think. The worst part, I'm talking about the worst. The headache thing, that was there for months. Oh, for months. I could feel my brain moving. There was no cushion. And it takes a long time to build the fluid back up. So every time you step, oh God, it's like bone on bone kind of feeling. It's horrible. And so and I had a lot of stairs in my house at the time when this happened. And every time you walked on the stairs, your brain was jolted and you could feel it. It was so horrible. And so the pain, just the most severe pain, I guess they could, they had to seal it so it would start building the fluid back up. But so they did that blood patch, and then the next day, sometime in the afternoon, then they sent me home. And I was, at the time, this very short amount of time I was in this relationship, and I married this person, and they were super toxic, but it was a huge growth for me. So I say toxic, but I'm not saying like they're a toxic person. The relationship, what went on between us was not, it was for my growth. Let's just say that. I can see it was for my growth. And so that relationship was ending. He moved out. It was Valentine's Day in 2009, and he moved out, and I came home from the hospital. He only came for a minute to see me in the hospital all the time, and it was just to get money from me, because I was, when I was making a lot of money, I got used by people. And so anyways, so when I came home, everybody had been up at the hospital with me. They definitely, I think, were worried that I was going to die. And, after I got out of the hospital, then I did hear, when I went in to get the blood patch even, and I had to lay down there for all that time, the anesthesiologist or whoever, because it seemed that there was, I'm not really even sure. It's been so confusing. But there was an anesthesiologist there. Then there was also, I was told, there was a nurse anesthetist or something that poked all the holes, and then the anesthesiologist didn't catch it or something. I'm not really sure. But anyways, when he had to go in, he was the one who was over my surgery. And I could hear him in the halls. The whole time I was laying there, it was like an hour. And he was out there ranting and raving because of how many holes were in my back. He was just freaking out. And so I knew, I had people who did not want me to leave the hospital without a lawyer. And I was just like, I'm not getting caught up in that whole thing, I just need to get out of here, get back to work, go shopping, pay my bills. That's all I need to worry about. I don't need to worry about any of the bullshit. Just, get over it. And, but it was not that easy to get over. That's for sure. I started having people come up to me all the time, and I had no idea who they were, and they would be talking to me. I had, I had such a good memory before that. Like, I could remember anybody. And so I was like, what the hell is going on? And people like parents from my daughter's team, and I wouldn't know who they were. I was like, this is weird. And then I started noticing like somebody would look like a certain way to me, and then they could turn around and it was like a whole different person turned back. And then later, years later, I saw a movie, and that is something with some neurological thing in your brain that I guess can get injured, because mine got injured. And somebody looks different every time you see them. They never look the same. And I can't remember, it was a whole story of them, some suspense movie or whatever. But it is weird when you have it happening. And when I was doing tattoos on people, and I would be tattooing on the back of them, and then they would turn around or start talking to me, and every time that I would see their face, it would be like a totally different face. It was weird. That was totally new to me. I couldn't track numbers. I couldn't track money. I couldn't track, my bank account was a mess. I couldn't remember things. I couldn't remember conversations. I couldn't remember how to drive. It was, oh my gosh, it was hard. And especially if you're somebody who doesn't like to ask people for help, and you're trying to navigate some of this stuff on your own, and you don't have the doctor who's like, oh, here, we can get you. There's a lot of specialists after people like have strokes and stuff that help them with certain things. But, that they couldn't, there was nobody who was going to touch me because it was malpractice. And so then when I went to my regular doctor, and the holes were more scabbed, and she could see them, and she counted them, and she put it in my chart. Seems like she said there was 6 or 7. But so that would explain why the fluid all leaked out. And none of their stuff worked. I mean, they never did do the spinal. I never was paralyzed at all. So, and that's the worst thing about a spinal is you wake up and it feels like you're paralyzed. You can't move the bottom half of your body. And I never had that. So none of those things that they were sticking in me to try and get that medicine in, none of it worked. So I had just holes that were just leaking fluid out. So I had to try and just figure so much stuff out. And then I felt like the skills of having to figure out how to function in the world with having whatever they want to label attention deficit. I felt like then that was, those were kind of that area in myself, of having to figure stuff out and learn how to do things and function. That, I had to just figure that out. And so I was, the first couple of months, I was in so much pain. There was a lot of stuff going on. That marriage ending. I had my oldest daughter was just in such a crisis for a few years after she lost her daughter, and so there was just there was so much going on, and I just went right back into another relationship, and that relationship was so he was so young. It was so annoying, and I never, ever, I did not want to be in any relationship with somebody young. I want to be with somebody who is like from the same generation as me. Like, we have things that we can relate to about like when we were kids and stuff. Yeah, him and I there was just nothing. And at first, he pushed himself on me, and but that's when I was a nurse. And then, as I got to know him, finding out that was like his biggest desire in the world was to marry a nurse. Well, it was during the time I was with him when everything was falling apart. But then once lawyers were involved, he spent years telling me what I needed to do with this money, how he was going to stop my kids from getting it. He would be in control, all sorts of stuff. Like, he was hyper focused on this settlement for my malpractice thing. Might be called negligence. I'm not sure. Malpractice, negligence, in that category. And so, and he had so many, there was just so many things that him and I just did not align with. And I definitely see, I was putting myself aside all the time. I'm going to stop and start again.